the final day of the week. These are the voyages of the program Unsportsmanlike Conduct. Its ongoing mission to explore strange new movies, to seek out new bits and new edifications, to boldly go where no radio program has gone before. Elkent's Movie Club. It's Elkent's Movie Club. Elkent's Movie Club. It's Elkent's Movie Club.
I love how we have now all gone to like bobbing and weaving to the tune of Elkent's Movie Club. Kent Wolgamott included, joining us on the stream on YouTube, Stibbs TV. Kent, happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you. It is, I am finally warm in my basement. The lovely Journal Star must have not paid the heat bill. And it's about 50 degrees in that building today.
Holy cow, really?
Yeah.
It's a cold one out today, man. That wind was biting.
Yeah, it is. It's the dogs didn't get nearly as long a walk as they normally do today. I was like, okay, in and out. Let's just get this thing over with, please.
Good day for some football.
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
it is. And don't forget, we will have Kent's predictions and Evil Kent's prediction coming up here on the program. But first, it is time for the movie club. And last week, I chose the 2012 movie, Killing Them Softly, which stars Brad Pitt, among others.
No, he doesn't show up for
he doesn't
a
really
while.
show up until about 25-ish minutes into a 90-minute movie. So it's a little different that way. But real quick synopsis, it is based on a novel from the 70s called Coogan's Trade. And it's a mob film from the standpoint of you've got a group of mobsters, three guys. You got the head of the group and then two basically hired goons.
Yeah.
Who
Morons.
Yeah, I was going to say a couple of idiots.
Who are hired to heist a poker game, hit up a poker game. And
poker game that the operator of said poker game had hit himself before.
Yes, he'd run his own little scam.
Yeah, so
and that's Ray Liotta's character.
Yeah, thus, if you rob them, a lot of people then there will be like, oh, well, it was Ray Liotta's character that did it, and thus he's the fall guy.
So that was kind of the cover for it all. So these guys, they go in, they rob it, they get away with it. That's where Brad Pitt comes in as the mafia tries to hunt down the real people responsible, but at the same time also go after Ray Liotta because they just want to. And it's essentially just tracking down all of these guys and taking care of business. And so that's basically the synopsis. But I think to kind of start with the critique, as I mentioned, the original novel was written in 1974, but it's adapted for the screen, and it was done so. And there was a theme that was throughout the movie. And it was during the time of the 2008 presidential election where there was also the economic crisis.
And so like there's a billboard at the very beginning of Obama and McCain. And so immediately it's like, okay, we know the time and the place we're in. And there's talk radio throughout.
Yes.
There's television stuff, whether it's, conventions or actual debates or whatever, commercials, all sorts of stuff throughout the whole movie.
And apparently this was done, and I'm reading from Andrew Dominic, who wrote and directed the film. He said it was the story of an economic crisis. Because remember, during that election, there was an economic crisis going on where you had, the
housing crisis,
and all of the junk bond stuff and everything that was going on. He said it was an economic crisis in an economy that was funded by gambling. And the crisis occurred due to a failure in regulation. It was something you couldn't ignore. So I thought, Kent, it was interesting how they wove that in because, yes, it was big businesses, gambling, if you will, and that led to the economic shutdown. This is a story about guys going out and busting a gambling situation. So I thought that was kind of an interesting way that they wove in that undercurrent throughout the course of this mob movie.
And that's not the first time that Dominic and Brad Pitt had done something similar. Prior to this film, they worked on The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford, which is, of course, a historical documentary, but it was sort of framed to be almost, it didn't have the TV reference, but you could see how it was deliberately done to reflect crime and society in 2005 or whenever it was made, rather than 1880, right? Mm-hmm. So that's something that they've done together a couple times, and I thought it actually worked. I'd actually forgotten the movie until 20 seconds into it and went, "Oh, I remember that."
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Ken.
And I thought maybe it would feel really dated because of that, that framing, but I actually thought it worked really well. What would that be now? 12
years later.
12 years since the movie, and it worked. I thought it worked.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Kent, because all throughout it, immediately we get that billboard, and it's like, okay, is this going to be a political movie? I thought that this was more of a mob movie.
Yeah, that kind of threw me off at first, because there was a lot of, and you mentioned the talk radio and stuff. I mean, it was very pervasive early in the movie, and I thought, wow, what is going on
and
here?
It would just kind of dip in and out. TVs would be on at bars, or the talk radio was really like the undercurrent. I thought that it worked because I thought the end, like essentially the punchline, if you will, of Brad Pitt and what he had to say at the very end of the movie, I thought that because in my opinion, at least, it was not overbearing. It was just on in the background, just like it is in our regular lives, though certainly, politics are a little more on the forefront right now. But I thought that in the end, it worked. And I thought that last line, that last bit of delivery from Brad Pitt was like, okay, that's pretty good.
Yes, I would agree with that. And the other thing that made that work, I think, was just simply Pitt's performance, right? Yeah. Because this isn't your typical hitman, for lack of a better way to put it. He's a little more intellectual, I guess you would say, or thoughtful.
Right.
And all the way through the movie, it kind of set him up to deliver that line. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yes, it did. And, and of course, his inclusion in it, naturally, when you talk about mob movies, you expect to see a lot of the same types of character actors or people that, typically populate mob movies with Italian overtones. And there were, obviously, James Gandolfini is in this. Vincent Curatola, who played Johnny Sack on The Sopranos. Mm-hmm. He's one of he's the mastermind of the guys who hit the poker game.
The idiot.
Or not such a mastermind.
Or not such a mastermind. Yeah. Exactly. And so, if you're a Sopranos fan, you kind of mark out when you see those moments. What did you think of because Gandolfini's character, Brad Pitt hires him out. He kind of subcontracts his contract out and gets Gandolfini, who breaks his parole to come to a different state to carry out the hit that he never does because he's got a drinking problem. He's he's got a divorce. He's just all kinds of issues.
Womanizer, yeah.
A womanizer issue. What did you think of how they utilized Gandolfini in this? Because, as you know, he is so noted for that one character. And in the minute he starts talking, I'm like instantly Tony Soprano, but he's not Tony Soprano.
And that's what I thought was great, is they took all of that Tony Soprano-ness, and then when it got up to pulling the trigger, it turned it on its head, right? And I thought that was, and you could tell during the performance that he was playing this to the hilt, right?
Yep.
He was being Tony that's a loser, not Tony the mob boss, right? But everything else about him was the same. And so I really found that I thought he was great. I thought the other guy who was really good was Richard Jenkins as the lawyer who was running the
meeting
with him in the cars and stuff. I thought, very well cast as this sort of, mob lawyer, and he doesn't come across like the lawyers in The Sopranos or Robert Duvall's character in the Godfather movies, right? These real insider member of the gang lawyer. He's this guy who wants to do his law stuff and set this up, but kind of keep everything at arm's length because I don't want to get shot, I think was the
I wanted to
motivation.
I wanted to talk about the whole cast, but I wanted to just add one little follow-up on Gandolfini. I thought that immediately you could kind of tell what type of character he was. Like when he gets off the plane, he's going down the escalator, he just looked really tired. And I was like, okay, he is not. And he was tired at times on The Sopranos, literally like physically tired. I thought that set it up really well. I loved, Kent, the use of the actors in this movie because I first of all, like John mentioned, it's basically a 90-minute flick. So it bounces around these characters, 10, 15 characters. I just loved it because I thought that we got just enough of each person, but not too much. And so honestly, I'd forgotten that this was a Brad Pitt movie until he suddenly shows up 25, 30 minutes into the movie. It's like, oh, that's right, there's Brad Pitt. And I thought that they used him perfectly. I thought that they used Gandolfini perfectly. I thought that they used, the scumbag mob guys, whatever you want to call them. I thought they used them perfectly. I thought that everybody in this movie was used really, really well.
I agree. And Ray Liotta, once again, is he was a constant in sort of, the mafia type movies. And yet, once again, he's not the guy from Wise Guy or whatever. The book was called Wise Guy. I can't remember the title. Goodfellas. There you go. He's not that guy, right? He's similar to that, but he blows it, right? by ripping that game off eventually. The other thing that I appreciated about this movie, watching it the second time, was yes, it was violence, but that was also stylized that it made it different, I suppose, in a way, or it made it like when we don't even have to give everything away. When Brad Pitt pulls up and shoots somebody through the car window, that was like a ballet of a bullet, right?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
And I'm not, does that glamorize it? I don't think so, but it certainly puts a different view on it.
Well, it's you're used to in any mob movie seeing people getting whacked, and it's usually a very abrupt, very loud, just, think of Sonny getting cheesecaked or getting Swiss cheesed at the toll booth in The Godfather. It's a loud, big time, boom. This was
like almost the end of The Godfather with all those deaths.
Yes, this was almost poetry.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask about the cinematography because I thought the cinematography was rather interesting. When the two thugs who hold up the poker game, and Ben Mendelsohn, by the way, plays one of the two.
He was so good.
And he was really good. And if you're not familiar, Ben Mendelsohn was the actor who played I can't remember his character's name, but in Rogue One, he played the guy who designed the Death Star.
And before that, he was in a great Australian mob movie that has become a TV series called Animal Kingdom.
Yes.
Okay.
So
Krennic, Director Krennic. He was the Krennic character from Rogue One.
And real quick, the other guy, Scoot McNair, he was in Argo, and he was also in a TV show called *Halt and Catch Fire*. That's where I recognize him from.
But there was a scene between those two guys where Mendelsohn's character is injected
heroin.
He's done heroin.
Yeah.
And he is
zonked out of his mind.
Zonked out of his mind, and he's going in and out of hallucinations while his buddy is trying to figure out, hey, did you just give us away? And so he's trying to wake him up. And so I thought the cinematography and kind of putting you in the viewpoint of
him in that
of
moment,
where the character is was rather interesting. And then at the end of the movie, when it's time for the ultimate, did you notice that when Brad Pitt was in the car waiting for Vincent Curatola's character to show up, the camera is set on the door of the car.
Yes.
So when the car door opens, and then closes, it kind of shakes because it's like the camera is sitting on the car. I just thought there were some little cinematography touches that were very unique that didn't take away from the film, but kind of enhanced it.
And it goes all the way to the first scene in the movie. If you remember him walking out with all that bombed out looking lot with the newspapers and stuff flying around him, sets that tone of the sort of economic destruction.
Yes.
Visually, right? And every time, and then the other one, there was when they robbed the poker game, they walked down the hall and then into that room and then back up that hallway.
Yes.
That was really effectively shot, I thought, and had that right look.
Kent, there is so often, I want to talk about Brad Pitt for a moment. One of the things that I've heard said about Brad Pitt over the years is like, he is a great character actor, but he's in a leading man's body, where in a way he is like too handsome at times to get to play maybe more of these types of roles. And so thus he plays, the leading man type. What did you think of him in this movie? Because I thought that he was absolutely excellent. And I thought that like the makeup work that they did with him, where he looked dirty. He looked like a scumbag, but also really smart as well, versus these other two guys that were getting in trouble throughout.
I agree. And I think Brad Pitt is actually underrated as an actor, period. If you look, he finally won an Oscar for the Tarantino picture, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And he's given some really great performances in it. Fight Club and in the River Runs Through It movie, the drama about the brothers in Montana. He's a much better actor than just this good-looking leading man that can play in, Mr. and Mrs. Jones,
Sure. Yeah. Mr. and Mrs.
Smith. Sorry.
No, you're good.
And I think that really came through in this. I thought he was very good, and I agree with what you said about how they made him look with the leather. He looked like real mobster.
Yeah,
the hair slicked back, and that leather jacket and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that he was really good. So yeah, that is Killing Them Softly. John, are you good to go now? You get it? You figure it out? It only took 20 minutes. Do you have it?
There was a certain something that was missing.
By the way,
I couldn't find. I had to do that.
Before we get to the thing everyone's waiting for, the predictions. Next week, Kent, we have decided instead of doing a Stibbs pick, we all want to watch the new Borat movie. It's on Amazon Prime. It dropped last night, so yeah, 2 thumbs up from Kent. So
and we figured you're probably reviewing it for the paper, aren't you?
Well, I haven't watched it yet, but I probably will. Yes.
Perfect. Yeah. So I figure might as well kill like every bird with one stone, and yes, that is next week's selection. Borat subsequent movie film, I believe, is the official title.
And speaking of review for the paper, this would not be something we do here. But if you like concert movies, Spike Lee did a movie of the David Byrne's American Utopia, which is his Broadway show that puts both his solo music and Talking Heads stuff together. And that's on HBO, I think.
Okay.
And it is great. I reviewed that for this week.
Have you had a chance, Kent, yet to watch a trial of the Chicago 7?
Part of it. It's one of those that the little button will get pushed to say continue watching or what it's called.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get to it. First, a season prediction. Ken, did you pick how many wins this year in 9 games?
Yeah, 4 and 5.
I think you're the first person.
You're the first person I've heard who said under 500.
Of least of the people we've had on the show. And I'm trying to think. I think a friend of the program, Chris Hetty, picked 4 and 5. But I think most everyone's picking 5 and 4 or 5 wins. But you're going with 4 and 5.
4 and 5. Yep.
And then a prediction for tomorrow.
Well, I have been going 42-21 or 42-24, and that makes a big difference to some people.
It does indeed.
Yes, it does. Well, we don't do these segments for gambling advice. There's only one person we turn to for gambling advice.
Yeah.
And that would be Evil Kent.
I could see 52-38 or something like that, probably Nebraska.
Man, I could see that score,
But not that way.
not that way. I could see one of these two teams scoring 52, and I could see the other scoring 38.
By the way, we had somebody, Kent, we got on a weird tangent yesterday. You're familiar with the scoregami concept, where you try to come up with unique scores, and there's an NFL scoregami. Someone actually did for us Husker scoregami. They went back through the entire history of Nebraska football to check every score and see if that has happened. I can tell you that 52-38 has never happened before in the history of Nebraska football. So
we need it so bad. We need a 52-38 game.
I agree.
The Evil Kent game.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that'd be great.
I just saw somewhere a note of a great one. Remember the fine Iowa Penn State 6-4 special?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Classic.
In the last 15 years or so? That was
like 15 years ago.
By the way, while I was trying to dial up Evil Kent, I'm curious what this is. I'm going to play this because this was from the same.
This team would have been better with him next year. There's no doubt about it. But I think this team probably is going to be better off without him.
That is amazing. That is amazing.
That's Evil Kent.
Evil Kent, welcome back to the show.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Now it's football season. Now I'm ready for tomorrow.
You're ready.
All right, Kent.
So watch the mighty Wisconsin Badgers against Illinois. The Big Ten picked a great one to start.
Well, hey, if you gamble on it, any game can be interesting. So I'll be tuned into that one. I'll be on my couch looking forward to it.
Only way to be. So next week it is Borat, and we look forward to it. Kent, have a great weekend. Stay warm. It's supposed to snow this weekend.
Fun.
Yeah, that's a really bad thing.
Yeah, it is indeed.
Kent, until next week.
Later.
Thank you.
Later, Kent.
You bet. There he is, Kent Wolgamott of the Lincoln Journal-Star.
I could see 52-38, something like that. Probably Nebraska.
That is just, I still remember the first time we had him on. His name was James Bryant.
Covered Arkansas State.
He covered Arkansas State.
By the way, the score of that game, the Arkansas State game, ended up being 42-13. So old James was a little off.
Yeah.
A little off.
But
this team would have been better with him next year. There's no doubt about it. But I think this team probably is going to be better off without him.
It sucks. He doesn't cover college football anymore. I think he got out of media entirely. I don't even know what he does. Because we wanted to bring him back.
I'd love to bring him back just to get him to cut some lines for us.
Oh, man, yeah. That'd be so much fun. So much fun.
Evil Kent sounding board. All right. Well, there it is. Another movie club is in the books. More on the game. We still have our push button win game, which someone got triggered. They still think you should call it keys to the game. I think it should be called push button win game, but that's just me.
Also, you asked a question of one Chris Basnett about like the excitement level and this week and how it's felt. I ended up like right before you asked it, the timing was crazy. I put out a poll question and I asked, compared to a normal start of a Husker football season, how would you describe your current excitement level?
Mm-hmm.
And I added, if excitement is down, is it because of the year that we've had in general, or is it because you think Nebraska will struggle this year? Over 350 votes, half have voted that they are less excited than normal. 31% say that they have about the same excitement as normal. 18% are a little bit more excited than normal. So you can go vote on that one. We retweeted it at USC 1620.
Okay. All right.
Well, some responses to that we could read.
We'll return and we'll do that when we come back. And it is One Beer Friday presented by Sinnett's Sandbar. That's also on the way. We've got some more of our crowlers. We have to pick one of the crowlers that we're going to have from, was it Farnham House?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Farnham House last week. So if you have an adult beverage that you are enjoying this weekend, tweet it to us, take a picture, send it to us, hashtag One Beer Friday. Put your score prediction on there too if you want to. There's no prizes for it. We've literally given away all the TVs.
No more TVs
The
given away here.
The TVs are given away here, but you can still win them at Fernando's.
Indeed.
They have 2 that they're giving away, and you can register to win at both Fernando's locations here in Omaha. Back with more of Unsportsmanlike Conduct after this on 1620 The Zone.